Hi, to start off with, I'd like to thank people for the response to last week's video, in which some asked me to show more of my work. So this week, I thought I'd show you some of what was left out. Everything last week was an official Games Workshop kit, or was completely scratch built, so it's fully usable in stores and tournaments. This week, most of what you're going to see, I've created rules for myself, so I can't use them in store without an opponent's permission. I certainly can't use them in tournaments. I'm going to start off down here with the Enforcer Armoured Car for the Imperial Guard again. This takes a Lehman Russ upper hull. I had a couple of those left over after I bought some Destroyer Tank Hunters from Forge World. And I added to a Chimera turret and put on 6 wheels. Use a little scout car, and since I've got 2 Destroyer Tank Hunters, I've been able to build 2 of the armoured cars. Next to them, this is what I call a Woven Light Tank. Quite simple, Chimera chassis, a turret. It's made from a shaving foam lid, and I've mounted in this one an auto cannon. That comes from an old Predator kit, where you used to get a plastic rhino and some metal bits to turn it into a Predator. And on the second one, a Conqueror cannon that are made from an empty bullet casing. Next to that is the Chimeradon. Now, the Chimeradon was a unit in Epic, but they never did one in proper 40k. It's just a Chimera chassis with a Lehman Russ battle cannon turret. And because I thought the ammunition would take up more room and leave less space for passengers, I've only put 2 las guns each side instead of the 3 to suggest it's got a smaller passenger carrying compartment. Next, I've got what I call a Lehman Russ Raider. It's a slightly stretched Lehman Russ chassis, no turret, there's a couple of heavy bolters in sponsons, and the door at the front should suggest its role. It's a troop carrier, intended just to drive right up to defences and then disgorge a squad of troops next to them. Behind that, I've got a squadron of Lehman Russ variants. I call these, well, to begin with, I called them the Lehman Russ Annihilator, because all it was a Lehman Russ with a Predator Annihilator turret. Then Games Workshop Forge World brought out a Lehman Russ Annihilator that was different. All they did was change the turret. I've gone further and made sure that all of the weapons in the hull were laser weapons as well. So I'm now calling this the Lehman Russ Lightning. That one just had multi-lasers in the hull and sponsons. This one, I've put las cannons in the sponsons. This one, las cannon in the hull, multi-lasers in the sponsons. Now on to the Lehman Russ Cerberus. These are based on the old crocodile tanks from World War II. I've taken a standard Lehman Russ and replaced the hull-mounted weapon with an Inferno cannon from a Hellhound, which is fueled by a little trailer stuck to the back. This particular one, I've also put extra armour on. I've made the extra armour so it looks like the explosive reactive panels in use today, and I've made those out of self-adhesive PCB supports stuck directly onto the track guards and the turrets, and for the hull, our sheet of plastic card spaced away. And then I have a second one. This doesn't have the extra armour, instead it's just got a pintle-mounted storm bolter. Behind them, I go on to possibly the most unconventional vehicle here, a Lehman Russ Tunneler. This would be a burrowing tank, hence the big drill on the front. No turret, because it would just get caught underground. The sponsons are fitted with autocannons and a storm bolter above for anti-personnel use. And you notice it's covered in lots of spikes taken from Dark Eldar kits, and I picture those moving around while it's underground to help burrow its way through. And up on top, a periscope with a drill on top, so they could extend that up and take a look at where they are. This is in its extended position, of course. Next to that, the Odin. It's really just a basilisk with a bigger gun. And because it's got a bigger gun, it needs a heavier chassis. So I've mounted it on a Lehman Russ chassis instead of a Chimera chassis. This is a special character I've created called Preacher Joshua. It's a Ministoran priest that wanders around on a mechanised pulpit. Just used sentinel legs, plastic card for the pulpit, and then Preacher Joshua himself is a priest from Mordheim. Now this one, that's my ordinatus, with what I call a magma cannon and several defensive turrets as well. This is the second version I've done of this. Initially it was painted bright red for the Adeptus Mechanicus colour with some details in white, and I thought it looked horrible, so I repainted it to look more ancient and added this section here, which is basically just an upper command deck for the main gun, on which I put a tech priest and a couple of servo skulls, and I added an anti-air defence turret, which has got a couple of multi-lasers. Now the final vehicles are fully scratch built, and they actually count as official units, so technically I could use them. I didn't include them last week because I don't have suitable inventory to go with them. These are all supposed to be ground vehicles operated by the Imperial Navy. This is their equivalent of a Chimera. See, it's got a multi-laser, heavy bolter in the front, and it's got large gun firing points along each side and a large rooftop hatch. I've got 3 of those. I call them the Sidewinder. And then just behind those, I have the wheeled equivalent of the Hydra anti-aircraft gun. I call this the Rattlesnake. And there you have it. If anybody's got any special requests for what they'd like me to do videos on, don't hesitate to let me know. And of course, you can see more of my work on my website, the Hazard Files. Thanks.